y'all are probably already aware, yesterday I withdrew from the Republican primary for the United States Senate. In 2004, I ran as a primary in the primary. I've come back 4 years later. In 2003, I went and announced there were problems in South Carolina. It was illegal immigration, the immigration process, the economy, our job situation, and South Carolina values. And that was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And I'm here to say today that the issues in South Carolina still haven't changed. And we have elected officials not representing our values and what we believe in for the state of South Carolina. Over the last several weeks, it's been about a 6-month campaign in all earnestness. This time I've driven over 8,000 miles. I've gone around, I've been speaking at Republican events. But when I go to a Republican event and they give me 2 minutes to speak, or they give me a minute to speak, and on Thursday I called the state party to ask the state convention how much time I was going to get to speak. And they said, well, we're not sure who's going to show up. We're having a special guest come, so it's probably going to either be Senator McCain or the president. So after he gets up and they tout how great our incumbent senator is, every one of our constitutional officers who've all joined on to the campaign, after they get through talking, all the delegation gets through talking, after that hour of talking about how great Senator Graham is and how every one of his votes are against what the people in South Carolina believes, I'm going to have 2 minutes to convince everybody and the 1,000 people in the stadium that all those people are wrong. And I've just made the decision. In 1950, Strom Thurmond ran and lost his first race. I lost 4 years ago. In 1954, Strom Thurmond came back, and to this day is the only federally elected office holder as a write-in candidate. In fairness to Senator Thurmond, it was harder even back then to be a write-in candidate than it would be today. But I'm offering myself as a petition candidate. I am a Republican. I have conservative values, but I'm stepping out of that race to run as a petition candidate. I believe we have to have independent thinking people, and we don't all necessarily have to get behind the party line. And having said that, the immigration issue, the amnesty issue, we have to secure our borders, and we haven't secured our borders. It's a simple issue of going and securing the borders. We failed to do that. We need to have English as the official language in this country. We failed to do that. And when we think of the war on terrorism, there's several ways of fighting the war on terrorism. The one and the most obvious, and the one that we're spending the money on, is the war itself and what we're doing in Iraq. That is debatable, and that issue stands on its own. But there are 2 other ways to fight the war on Iraq, which we've miserably failed. And the reality is, every one of the terrorists who came here and killed 3,000 United States citizens were already in this country. And the reason they were here is because we failed in securing on the back end of our visa program. Once the visas expire, we're up to the will and the whim of foreigners to decide they want to leave the country. We have no way of tracking once the visas expire. And since 1994, that's been the problem. It just happens to be the same time frame that the sitting senator has been in Washington. So we failed on the visa program, and we just have to go back, and there's things we can actually do that aren't being done today. On the economy, the gas prices. When Senator Graham took over, gas was $1.30 a gallon. Now it's $3.10, $3.20, $3.40. We can change the gas prices. Right now, if you go out on supply and demand, gas is about $72, $74, $75 a barrel. Oil. And that's all it is. The other $30 or $40 is because of speculation. The reason there's speculation in the market is because we're not building refineries, we're not drilling in ANWR, and we're not doing things, we're not creating more nuclear power. Half the power in South Carolina is provided by nuclear power. We could go out, build more plants, and take our demand, but we're not taking any leadership roles, and that isn't even addressing all the alternative fuels and the other directions we can go. Right now, I would propose that we drill in ANWR, and actually I've changed my position. I would even agree to drilling off the coast of South Carolina. To create leases, and the revenues from that leases go to the University of South Carolina, go to Clemson, and go to our colleges and have research projects on how we create alternative fuels and do different things. But we're doing nothing. We're playing the same old game. And our tax system is broken. You're talking in the fair tax. I really don't need to explain and go into all the details of the fair tax. Y'all understand that we have to do that. What I want to see with the fair tax is that we create a method, not just the bill itself in both houses, but we actually come up with a schedule and a plan on how we could actually go from the system we have today to the fair tax system. You know, there's a lot of debate, and it's black and white. I think we have to have a transition plan to get to the fair tax, and there has to be more discussion. When I called and talked to the fair tax people in Texas and I asked them to get involved in this race, they said, well, we're worried about the presidential race, and then April 15th is a big day for us. And I said, well, in all fairness, whenever Governor Huckabee ends up being out of the race, there is no presidential election. There is no more discussion in the presidential arena because John McCain doesn't even know what the fair tax is. And I said, y'all have to get involved, and you have to get involved with the Senate and congressional races. If you elect people who believe like you do, then we can implement the fair tax. We have to go back and look at our trade agreements. A man in church the other day came out of church, and he said, Mark, how can I help you in the campaign? He said, I started off my career in banking. I went to Vanderbilt banking school. And back in the 70s, they taught me for every $1 billion of trade imbalance, we lose 100,000 jobs. This year alone, we have a $233 billion trade imbalance with China alone. $764 billion in a trade imbalance overall. Last year, Korea, we have a $13 or $14 billion trade imbalance with Korea. We brought in 700,000 cars from Korea. And South Korea bought 3,900 American-made cars. That's not fair trade. We have to look at our trade agreements. And I'm here today to announce that I've written a letter to all the South Carolina Republican Party members and the Republican leadership. Yesterday I announced I was stepping outside of the party, and today I want to read this letter that I'm offering to the state party. Dear fellow Republican leader, I know that you have a difficult and a valuable duty. I commend you for doing it, and for the most part, I agree with how you do it. However, in too many cases, I've seen party officials who are not interested in a fair and open process. There have been too many times when party officials have made endorsements before the filing process. There have been too many times when party officials have made endorsements before the primary was over. There have been too many times when other candidates for office were limited in speaking time, or they were not allowed to speak at all and given less time than others who use their positions as elected officials or party officials to act as surrogates for candidates who did not even bother to show up. This is not the only reason I decided to run as an independent petition candidate for the United States Senate, but it certainly did not make me more inclined to enter the Republican primary. In the future, for the sake of the party, of the candidates yet to come, I hope that you will take a different approach. I also hope you will begin now. You can begin by declaring that during this primary campaign, all candidates will be treated equally. All candidates for the same office will be given equal time and consideration. You can begin by declaring that you will not endorse any candidate in a race where there is competition, if you have not already done so. If you have already endorsed a candidate who is facing primary opposition, you can make it the greatest statement for good government as a matter of principle. Publicly withdraw your endorsement until after the primary is over. For the sake of South Carolina, America, and the future of good government, respectfully, Mark Struthers McBride, independent petition candidate for the United States Senate.